Nigeria and State of Qatar pledge to enhance economic cooperation.
The visit has further strengthened the relationship.
INEC presents certificates of return to senators-elect.
Where the bulk of Abuja people live, there's a lot to be done.
Court of Appeal to rule on INEC's application to reconfigure BVAS machines ahead of March 11 polls.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the shape of the 10th National Assembly.
Well, nothing lasts forever, they say, and such is the nature of political power, especially in a democracy where elective positions are dependent on specific terms of office or tenures, which can be truncated if one is not re-elected by the people at the ballot. That's how transient power is concerned.
I've got no question about that. Power is indeed transient and no condition is permanent. But it would appear that not all politicians take that into cognizance. As it is, the first round of the 2023 general elections on the 25th of February this year has produced the next set of lawmakers that will occupy the National Assembly for the next legislative dispensation. That is nearly all of the lawmakers. Now, while some are lucky to return, others have been sent packing and, as it were, retired by political opponents and underdogs in the February 25th polls.
That's indeed interesting, Kingsley. I know the National Assembly elections produced different shades of surprises, mostly facilitated by the emergence of a third force that gave the two major parties a run for their money. The next National Assembly, which shall be 10th legislature, will comprise of more political parties, even though the All Progressives Congress will retain its majority status.
Now, for both the upper and lower chambers, that is the Senate and the House of Representatives, INEC has so far concluded elections into 423 of the 469 national legislative seats. And the Commission has indicated that supplementary polls will be held after March 11th for the other National Assembly seats that had their elections either rescheduled or declared inconclusive.
Only yesterday, INEC issued certificates of return to senators-elect, and we do same today for members-elect of the National House of Representatives in the Senate. Now, we understand that only 27 out of 55 senators who sought re-election were successful at the polls.
Well, the APC in the elections just concluded still retains its majority status in the Senate with so far 57 lawmakers, while the PDP has 29. Labour has made a lot of inroads into the Senate with 6 lawmakers. The new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, and SDP have 2 apiece. And the All Progressive Grand Alliance and the Young Progressives Party, YPP, have 1 lawmaker each in the red chamber. That's the Senate.
Yes. Now, for the green chamber, APC leads with 162 members elect, PDP 102, Labour Party 34, New Nigeria People's Party NPP has 18, ABGA has 4, the African Democratic Congress ADC and Social Democratic Party SDP have 2 lawmakers apiece, while the Young Progressive Party YPP choose with 1 member of the House of Representatives.
Well, the increase in the number of political parties that have lawmakers in parliament appears to imply that the party having majority will still have to lobby and consult with lawmakers of other parties in the opposition before certain critical decisions are made, except, of course, that will require a simple majority. Now, the expectation is that the National Assembly of the 10th edition is unlikely to be what some have sometimes referred derisively to as a rubber stamp legislature.
Exactly.
I was being cautious.
Yes.
Getting into that,
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, and that will be quite interesting, especially when it is time to elect the presiding officers, such as the Senate President and Speaker of the House of Representatives in the 10th National Assembly. Nigerians will be waiting to see where the majority party will zone the positions of the presiding officers to ensure balance of power in the two chambers as well as in the executive. Well, personally, we're going to begin to hear about the juicy positions now in terms of, committee members.
Well, that will be after the principal officers have been
Exactly.
elected. But it's always an intriguing exercise after the inauguration of a new legislature, and already lobbying has commenced in earnest amongst those who think they are eminently qualified to lead the upper and lower chambers of the National Assembly. But then, what would be the shape, quality, composition, and character of the 10th Assembly that is due to come, of course, in 3 months' time, when the 10th Assembly will be proclaimed and formally commence business? We shall, of course, find out aspects of this in our conversation segment and Good Morning Nigeria today. On which note, we welcome you to the program. I'm Kingsley Sadolo.
And I'm Kirian Umayo. Thank you for joining us on our Good Morning show, broadcast live on the network service of NTA. And as always, we have other segments that will complement the package, which will include newspaper review, business news, sports, and of course, foreign tidbits. For now, we have our colleague, Olajide Bello, who has the Good Morning News highlight. Hello, Olajide.
Hello, Kirian and Kingsley. Good morning. There is the news. Issues relating to Nigeria and the state of Qatar doing a lot more together towards enhancing economic cooperation as well as investment opportunities of mutual benefit came to the fore on the margins of the UN conference on least developed countries in Doha. This was a high-level engagement between President Muhammadu Buhari and Sheikh Hamad bin Mohammed Al Thani, former Amir of the state of Qatar, father of the reigning monarch.
Of course, they have been now at the center of the world, attracting all kinds of businesses and activities towards their country. So I think this will further, the takeaway here is that the visit has further strengthened the relationship.
President Muhammadu Buhari says Nigeria will sustain leadership in combating climate change in sub-Saharan Africa, focusing on a whole-of-government approach and private sector participation to mainstream climate action. The president was represented at a high-level thematic roundtable on climate change at the 5th United Nations Conference on Least Developed Countries in Doha, Qatar.
This pragmatic approach should resonate with LDCs and developing countries to initiate and adopt effective homegrown resource mobilization supported by a well-developed action plan.
As President Muhammadu Buhari prepares to leave office upon the conclusion of his 2-term tenure, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, says it has made arrangement to honor the president with an award in recognition of his achievements in the defense and promotion of democracy as a system of government in the sub-region. In a statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President and Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, the ECOWAS chairman, Guinea-Bissau's Umaru Sissoco Embalo, stated this at a bilateral meeting with President Buhari on the sidelines at the ongoing 5th United Nations Conference on Least Developed Countries in Doha, Qatar. President Embalo said the president has done a lot to support democratic government in West Africa. Senators-elect for the February 25, 2023 National Assembly election have been presented with certificates of return by INEC.
And to reassure you of better assembly, better legislation, new idea, new bills and law to protect the life and property of our own people.
Infrastructure for the masses. We have some infrastructure for the elites and the areas where everybody sees, but where the bulk of Abuja people live, there's a lot to be done.
The Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja will this Wednesday consider the merits of the application of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) seeking the order of the court to reconfigure the bimodal voter accreditation system (BVAS). The Labour Party and its candidate Peter Obi filed a fresh application to be allowed to conduct a physical inspection of all the BVAS that was used for the presidential poll. INEC is in the appellate court to seek its order to reconfigure its BVAS in readiness for the conduct of governorship and House of Assembly elections. The court had earlier granted interim applications of PDP and its candidate Atiku Abubakar LP and its candidate Peter Obi to inspect the materials used for the presidential polls. Meanwhile, Nigeria's President-elect Bola Tinubu is seeking an order from the court of appeal to assess sensitive materials used by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) for the conduct of the presidential election. As preparations for the 2023 national census reach an advanced stage, the federal government is relying on key stakeholders for technical and financial support to enable coverage of key activities which have not been implemented. This was the crux of a high-level engagement organized by the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning in collaboration with the National Population Commission and the United Nations Population Fund ahead of the population and housing census.
Censuses all over the world, the average is between $4 to $6. Nigeria's $6 per person, you will agree with me, is very, very reasonable.
We've reached a point that in a few weeks we'll be conducting census for Nigeria.
Consumers and business operators in Abuja are uncertain on whether to continue using the old 500 and 1,000 naira notes. The dilemma is as a result of the central bank's delay in issuing directives on the next course of action after the Supreme Court judgment.
Surprisingly, I brought it out yesterday and I was able to spend 2,000 naira from meat yesterday. Today I also spent 1,000 naira, which is remaining 1,000 naira left.
I asked some people if they were going to accept it as a legal tender and they refused. So I had to tell them no, I'm not interested until I hear from whatever the president or the CBN governor has to say.
Well, that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Kieran and Kingsley after this break. Do stay with us.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. It's time for business news, and here is our correspondent, Alika Okpanochi Aruwa.
With this release, this year, I'm sure we're going to see an increase in non-oil performance, because with that, they can use those promissory notes to offset several things, or tax, VAT, and other monetary issues they need to clear that with.
The exporting companies are benefiting from the Export Expansion Grant Scheme, aimed at stimulating the growth in the volume and value of made-in-Nigeria products in the international markets. It is a post-shipment incentive scheme that was established by virtue of the Export Incentives and Miscellaneous Provision Acts and laws of the Federation of Nigeria. While issuing letters to some of the beneficiaries of the scheme in Abuja, Dr. Israel Yakusak commended the federal government and the National Assembly for prompt response in approving the payments of the outstanding claims to the beneficiaries.
This is a boost not only to Nigeria's Promotion Council, but to the entire economy. You'll be surprised to note that with this release of these funds through promissory notes, there's going to be increase in purchase of machinery, there's going to be employment generation, there's going to be expansion of various exporting firms in terms of industries and whatnot. So once that happens, at the end of the day, the nation benefits, the economy benefits. Employment is curtailed or reduced, but right now we have a balance of about 60 billion that we're waiting for approval by the National Assembly.
With business news, Alika Okpanochi Aruwa.
Thank you, Alika, for the package. And up ahead is newspaper review.
All right, newspaper reviewer Chukwudi Okoli-Ogbaja is right here with us in the studios. Chukwudi, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kingsley. Thank you. Kirian, how are you?
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's good to see you again.
Same here, as always.
Okay, we have two papers, plus, of course, other news items that Chukwudi will come up with in the course of today's review. But I have this Daily Sun newspaper that's beside the name flag. Coalition of CSOs protest, demand INEC chairman's sack. PDP accuses Commission of plot to destroy election results. All that on pages 6 and 26 of the Sun newspaper. Now the lead story has a kicker: presidential election. Tribunal rules on beavers. Tinubu seeks not to inspect materials. With a rider, why Kwankwaso didn't congratulate President-elect. Secondly, NNPP. You will get more on pages 6 and 30. Now, 55 of the Nigerian adolescent girls, women, suffer anemia. That's UNICEF's report. It's on page 30. Senate President race. APC support group back Carlo says he's most senior qualified senator in the Southeast. It's on page 30. EU elated over presidential candidates' parties move to uphold rule of law. That's on page 6 now. Global elections were not in alliance with any political party. That's Labour Party speaking there. With a rider, dissolves Rivers Exco over endorsement of PDP Global candidates. It's on page 26. All right. Below the photo story here, we have traders, others reject old 500 naira and 1,000 naira notes as banks resume acceptance and payment. That's on page 2. Now, be vigilant, defend your votes. Enugu LP Guba candidate tells voters. It's on page 26. All right, Kinsley.
Okay, we also have the leadership newspaper, and above its name flag, you have the following headlines. Why I turned down NNPP senatorial seat. That's according to Shekarau. Details on page 6. And on page 16, INEC drops Doguwa from election winners list. Then below the nameplate, you have the following headlines. Fuel scarcity. Marketers disagree on uniform petrol pricing. And 3 days to governorship polls. Governors tighten noose on opposition. Wike splits Rivers Labour Party as faction adopts Fubara. State ESCOs dissolved. Party crisis and litigation cripple opposition in Akwa Ibom, Oyo, and others. 12 parties collapse structures for Niger APC flag bearer. Bagudu, Padaru, APC candidates meet Adamo ahead of polls. Tackle economy and security challenges. And as CIA urges Tinubu. NNPCL moves machines to Nasarawa ahead of March 21st drilling date. 10th National Assembly won't be executives' rubber stamp. That's on page 7. Chukwudi.
Thank you, Kingsley. Fireworks begin as court rules on Obi INEC case on beavers today. APC lists 13 senior advocates of Nigeria to defend mandate. Tinubu joins suit. That matter is under judge, so that's the much we can, talk about that. I just wanted to mention it. Now, this one is interesting. Governors tighten noose on opposition. What I don't know is whether the governor's war chest stands ready to be deployed, or is it that despite the Supreme Court decision, the Naira is still making a slow return? I'm sure that the governors, if indeed money influence comes from them, they would be very hesitant in terms of transferring money to anybody, because that's going to leave footprints that investigators would find easy to follow. Remember that mantra, follow the money. You'll get to the crooks. Anyhow, I'm not calling governors crooks anyway. I've always questioned how fair it is really to contest against a sitting governor or anybody he anoints to take over from him. You don't know when the security vote actually gets deployed after the ballot box, I don't know how fair it is. That's just something that occurred to me. And I think money politics, as much as we can manage it, should be worked against. Fair is fair. Let a level playing field be there for people, to contest, to take over from people. Incidentally, I also have something on sports here. I hear that Osimhen is interested in crossing over to the Premier League, and that interest is rooted in the fact that it is my dear Arsenal he's interested in joining. I don't know whether you're one of those people who spot the blue jersey. I'm believing making a lot of noise in town.
He has his individual ambition, right? With all these young players, they like to navigate, across the big nations, who of course put football at the center of the entertainment. So that's it. But for me, he's making waves in Italy at the moment.
He's a son we are proud of.
Exactly.
That Napoli hot hitter.
EPL, is a different ball game altogether. When he gets in there, he needs to adapt to be able to function effectively and efficiently. I want to say this, that I don't see him performing optimally in the EPL, especially. The club you just mentioned, if you could go to a club, my friend's club
is he Chelsea?
No, I want to do the best club in the world. If you can go there, then I'll be happy for him. That's Madrid. If you can.
You said something. EPL is a different ball game.
It is.
Otherwise, the people in blue thought they had taken Mudryk from us, Mikhailo. You can see that the man has become totally...
has consumed so many
not one assist, let alone a goal. Nemesis has caught up with Chelsea.
But you also have to worry about public opinion, not just your performance on the pitch, and more especially the attitude of the media. The media and the fans, they are heavily involved in appreciation of the talents of players. And what sometimes happens is, if you are a hero and they love you and they like you, you can make no mistakes. But you will be the villain, the perpetual villain, if you are in their wrong books. And in which case, every little error is blamed on you. And they will always look for scapegoats. Exactly. You saw what happened. This is one of the latest. You saw what happened after Liverpool humiliated Manchester United. Instead of fully appreciating the startling performance of Liverpool, you see them looking for Bruno Fernandes, who was captain. Oh, they said at some point Bruno Fernandes, yes, it was ungentlemanly, went and pushed the linesman. Pushing the linesman did not result in one of the goals that they conceded.
It didn't, but that man overreaches himself sometimes.
Well, but that's part of.
There's something nagging about his attitude.
No, that is part of the scapegoating. That's part of the scapegoating I'm talking about. You see,
that's part of what I see about him.
A player like Harry Kane, sometimes when he balloons a penalty over the bar,
that slide rule kicker.
He just says it's just one of those mistakes.
Beautiful.
One of those. You understand the point? He says it's one of those things. And the same way, upon his return to Man U, it's the way they vilified Ronaldo. That was Ronaldo. It was like every time, no, this is a good fit, it's not a good fit, X, Y, Z. He left them, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
so,
public opinion.
These players also, behave in certain manners. They have some mannerisms, especially when you get to the highest level of your playing career, like Ronaldo just mentioned. When he got to Man U, he will have to be a master. You can't be a player and a coach at the same time. You don't have to try and show your coach that you have landed, football-wise, because you're still under somebody. So these players are like that, and that's why they sometimes make very serious mistakes in terms of clubs to go and play to. When you're reaching to a level where the whole world is appreciating you, you want to say, okay, find more money for you. You just step into an area where you cannot operate very efficiently. That's part of it. So to manage these players is also a very difficult.
Now you know why I'll forever love Messi.
Yeah, it's cool-headed. They're cool-headed player.
La Pulga Atomica.
Yes.
Well, that's great. But you mentioned earlier, you said something about the best club in the world.
Yeah, that's what some people believe, But
is it Real Madrid?
I'm not sure it is. But again, I mean.
those Champions League, wonders that Barcelona is making a mincemeat of in La Liga. I can't quite understand it.
Exactly, because Barcelona is still on top.
You don't quite understand it because you are looking at only the moment. When was the last time Barcelona won La Liga? Ask yourself that question.
It's not
so you can have
just 3 years ago. It's 3 years ago.
Yeah, so when was the last time Real Madrid won La Liga? And La Liga is the toughest league in the world.
The toughest league in the world. But
I like what you just said.
When was the last time?
The talented players of this world are in La Liga.
And La Liga.
But the hype, the media hype EPL enjoys seems to subvert
marketing strategy.
Sports marketing.
The players in La Liga, more especially as Kylian has acknowledged this morning, the best players in the world. These are the kind of guys you just got to respect. There's no without question. Okay. But very, very quickly, I know we're going to sign off now. This is very interesting. In a country where sometimes people can do all kinds of things just to acquire political power. Here is Ibrahim Shekarau. Ibrahim Shekarau at some point was governor of Kano State. He's a member of the outgoing 9th Senate. He left his party and joined NNPP in Kano. They offered him a senatorial ticket. And before the election, of course, he resigned from the party, according to him, on grounds of principles. The election was conducted. NNPP, of course, won the election. And even though the party had written to INEC to say that this earlier candidate we had put forward had already left the party, INEC, of course, declined to honor that. The matter is right now at the Supreme Court. But how do you explain this? Where every other person there probably will be hankering after the ticket. Now, yesterday, when the senators-elect were being presented with their certificates of return, his name, of course, was called, but he wasn't there. He wasn't anywhere near the perimeter of the International Conference Center. He says, I don't need it. I have left your party. I don't want to kill myself as a senator. He's a serving senator currently. But he says to be the 10th Senate isn't what he needs on the platform of it. It's something that we need to take a look at and ask ourselves. Kind of politics can be volatile, but it also can be very interesting.
No, very
I'm always supposed to say, what a man.
Yes, I mean, and on the other side of it, Dogua has been withdrawn, by INEC.
INEC, I was thinking, why would INEC move so quickly? He's not been convicted or whatever. It's just an allegation.
No,
is it the weightiness of the allegation?
The weightiness of it. Social media these days, is really helping matters, these days, because the action that they took that led to the killing of the young person that died there, people captured it on video. So that's something you can. I mean, he was present. He led the people that were allegations.
Let's get it right, gentlemen. The trial that is undergoing now has nothing to do with the decision of INEC not to include his name as a member elect. What INEC did, and this is another test again of the Electoral Act 2022, says that the result that declared and returned him as winner of that federal constituency election was given under duress. And this is a review by INEC to say, yes, the returning officer made a declaration on the field, but INEC is not reviewing because one of the powers now granted INEC to review. So this is a test case. It has nothing to do with the criminal allegation of homicide against him and so on and so forth.
In fact, if it's a coincidence, then it's designed by God, one way or another. Because why I say that is that you come tell the offense was allegedly committed. That's number one. And in second place, listen,
sign us out and leave God out of this.
The matter is sub judice.
No,
so it's been granted bail, 500 million.
I'm asking him to leave God out of this one.
No, not just God. Kyrian, we can't engage in media trial.
I am not engaging in anything, Kingsley. I am just saying that we had the same experience in 2019 elections, where somebody was also under duress announced a winner. I'm just making a reference to what happened before.
No. You were. That's fine. You were talking about the murder trial.
Let's call it a day on the segment, and of course we'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with today's conversation.
It's Good Morning Nigeria, and we're live on NTA's network service. Now for our conversation, which is on the shape of the 10th National Assembly to be inaugurated later in June this year, let's listen to our correspondent, Joseph Hussein.
In June, the 10th National Assembly will be inaugurated after the presidential inauguration on May 29th. From the just concluded National Assembly elections, INEC has so far declared that 423 out of the 469 national legislative seats have been concluded and results declared. The electoral body has gone ahead to issue certificates of returns to winners in the red chambers, and same will be done for those in the green chambers today. The Nigerian Parliament comprises of the Senate with 109 seats and House of Representatives having 360 members. From the outcome of the National Assembly elections conducted by INEC so far, the Commission has declared that 98 out of the 109 Senate seats are awaiting inauguration, while 325 out of the 360 seats are set for the House of Representatives. The ruling political party, APC, which also produced the president-elect, has majority in the Senate with 57 seats, while the PDP is following with 29. Labour Party, seen as the third force by political analysts, has also made an inroad into the red chambers, taking 6 seats. NMPP and SDP have 2 each, while ABGA and YPP have 1 each. In the House of Representatives, the results declared by INEC indicates that APC has 162 out of the 325 seats, while PDP won 102, Labour Party 34, NMPP 18, ABGA 4, ADC and SDP 2 each, while YPP has settled for 1 seat for now. INEC says supplementary elections will be held in 46 constituencies after the March 11 governorship and State House of Assembly polls to complete the National Assembly seats. Interestingly, the 10th National Assembly will witness plethora of new members amid the returnees. For instance, only 27 out of the 55 serving senators who sought for re-elections February 25th were successful. The choice of principal officers, including that of the Senate President and Speaker of the House of Representatives of the 10th National Assembly, is largely in the hands of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. And Nigerians for now can only wait to see how its zoning formula and balance of power in the 2 chambers play out. Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be analyzing the composition of the 10th National Assembly.
Thank you, Joseph. We appreciate that. And to begin our conversation, let me first of all introduce distinguished Senator Sadiq Umar. He represents Kwara North Senatorial District and is the Chairman Senate Committee on Rules and Business, as well as Vice Chairman Senate Committee on Primary Healthcare and Communicable Diseases. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And from our Kaduna studio, we are being joined by Professor Kabir Marato, a political scientist. It's a pleasure, sir, to have you this morning with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Kiran. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. Also with us for today's conversation is Oke Epia. Oke Epia is joining us via Zoom. He's Executive Director, Other Paper Nigeria, which of course covers the National Assembly. Okay, we're glad to have you this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's begin with distinguished Senator Sadiq Umar. I first would like to congratulate you. We understand that you won your bid to return to the Senate at the 10th National Assembly, and that you already collected your certificate of return. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And but of course, as it were, the Senate, of which I am currently a member, still has about 3 months to go. But it appears that the color of the 10th Assembly is already beginning to show itself. What emotions does this trigger in you?
Thank you, Siri. It's a mixed feeling, really, because, you know, these are people you sat with in the last 3 years plus, and now most of them are not coming back. Yeah, you have to stay with new persons. But we just always keep on looking forward. And for me, I think that the 10th Senate will look forward to being better than the 9th Senate, regardless of what we've lost, because as you know, the legislature is driven by experience everywhere in the world. Getting experienced legislators out of the National Assembly is not good for our democracy. It's not good for the system. Unfortunately, the people are in charge. They decide what they want to do. Whatever they do, you have no option. And from experience since 1999, this has been the situation. You don't return. At best, I doubt whether we've done 50% before. What we are seeing now is less than 30% that are coming back. All the persons that have worked very hard in various committees, all those experiences, institutional memories will all disappear. And you have to start all over again with a lot of other persons. Yeah, so for me, as somebody who ran the rules and business, I know how challenging it's been for every newcomer, trying to understand how Senate works, trying to cope. Now again, you are going to be starting with a whole set of new persons. It's even worse at the committee level because the Congress or the Parliament is driven by committees. That is where you require experienced persons to really give proper oversight to the executive. That's where you expect even government policies to be properly grilled in the interest of the society. Now, where you don't have experienced persons who have done this over and over again to be there, it's going to be a big loss to our democracy. So I have mixed feelings. I look forward to working with new persons coming, but we are going to lose a lot of old colleagues, especially the experienced ones that have added value to, you know, the Senate.
Well spoken, you know, mixed feelings. Yeah, that's interesting. We'll come back to you as we make progress. Now, let me go to Kaduna State, Kaduna, where we have Professor Kabir Malto. So this is your area, you know, politics. Since 1999, we've experienced national assemblies, in most cases, some parties with absolute majority. But this time around, the picture that we are seeing is indicating that we're going to have a more participatory National Assembly, where many parties, even the underdogs, are also going to have representatives at both chambers. Now, what do you make of what will be the characteristics of the 10th National Assembly, given, of course, what INEC has released as those who are going to, of course, make up the 10th Assembly at the national level?
Well, thank you very much, Kirian. I think the 10th National Assembly is going to be more like the National Assembly that we had between 1999 and 2003. That's the assembly that came up as a result of the election conducted by the military government of Abdusalami Abubakar before handing over power to civilians. And at that time, you could recall that about 3 or so political parties, had preponderance, even though the PDP was in the majority. But the APP and Alliance for Democracy also had very good showing in the National Assembly, in both the two chambers, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Now, after that, the elections conducted by the civilian regime, especially under President Olusegun Obasanjo, were marred by very serious irregularities to the extent that the rate of attrition in both the Senate and House of Representatives was, over 75%. So if Senator Umar is saying that the attrition is just about 70%, about 30%, might likely be returning, I think is substantial progress given, what we have experienced before. But be that as it may, I think a very important thing that we need to know is that, yes, the APC so far has about 57 members. That's more than 50% of the Senate. So that constitutes simple majority out of 109 members. In the House of Representatives, which of course is the House of the people, because membership in the House of Representatives, as you know, is largely consists of people who represent the population configuration of the various, federating units that make up the country. While in the Senate, it's a proportional representation for the obvious fact that there is a need, for even the minority states, minority constituent units, to also feel carried along, in the process of legislation. And that's why Lagos and Kano State will have 3 number of senators, with Bayelsa, Gombe, and Nasarawa State that obviously have a far lower population. So the Senate is there, and I believe in the 10th National Assembly, of course, you don't have so much political vibrancy as reflected in, exuberance that you have in the House of Representatives, but the nature of politics and, that will be obtained in the House of Representatives, in my view, will require a lot of consultations by perhaps the majority party, in this case the APC, that has about 162, and minding the gap that just about 24 to 25 seats up for grabs. So even if APC is going to win all the remaining seats, it will still not have, the absolute or the comfortable majority that it will require to carry along its, parliamentary activities without consultation with the other party. I want to think that this is basically going to speak better for our democracy, because there will be more consultation. It will not be a winner-takes-all kind of responsibility that we have seen in the previous national assemblies, where one political party will have 75% of the total number that are there. So there's going to be more inclusion as far as the level of participation of various political parties and various groups across the country in terms of the discharge of responsibility of lawmaking, oversight, and representation in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. Well, like I said, it is going to be a little more easier, for the ruling party to have a smooth sail in the Senate than it is going to have in the House of Representatives. So I think the earlier that this fact is realized by the ruling party, and therefore wearing its thinking cap to begin the process of building alliances and schemes of cooperation from both other political parties, that have also won seats in the House of Representatives, I think the better. In a nutshell, I'm optimistic of the fact that the 10th National Assembly is obviously going to be a more representation of the configuration and the various pitfalls and fault lines of the Nigerian society than we have in the 9th Assembly and probably previous assemblies, except of course the 1999 to 2003 National Assembly. This is what we had exactly in 1979, when NPN was in control. The UPN was visibly there, the MPP was there, the Great Nigeria People's Party, the People's Redemption Party, they all had, representation in the 2 chambers of the National Assembly. And so the activities, the politics there were more robust, than we have had, subsequently. And to me, again, this legitimizes...
Professor Kabir Mato, let's pause you in the meantime. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation, so we'll drill further into the likely character of the 10th Assembly against the backdrop of what we know since 1999. Let's bring in now Oke, excuse me, Oke Epia, Executive Director of Order Paper that also monitors very closely transactions and occurrences in the National Assembly. Oke, what are you making of the emerging picture of the membership of the 10th National Assembly?
Thank you, Kingsley, and happy to be here again to join your very erudite panel this morning. A very important point to make before I say anything is that the emerging 10th National Assembly is epochal. It's going to be historic because by June 2024, it will be 25 years of unbroken democracy where the legislature, the National Assembly as an institution, are sustained as far as the Fourth Republic is concerned. And so this 10th National Assembly has history written all over it. What it makes of that history is up to it. You know, I say this because all these years, close to 25 years of the National Assembly, we have seen a legislature that has refused, or more like sustained, a definitive character as far as service delivery is concerned. The public perception of the National Assembly since the Fourth Republic, which I'm focusing on currently, does not give a cause for joy. And, you know, even though there appears to be incremental and gradual shifts in the extent, you know, of this perception, but essentially Nigerians continue to see the National Assembly as one that exists more for itself and for its members than for the citizens of the country. There have been cases and issues and stories of scandals, of corruption, you know, of, you know, all of that since 1999 to date. It's instructive that the National Assembly itself has not done much considerably to alter this public perception. And which is why I say the 10th National Assembly has history, has an opportunity to begin to alter some of these perspectives, you know, so that citizens can see a National Assembly that is set to offer services, that deliver services not for itself, but for the country and for the good of every Nigerian. It's important to say also that the National Assembly that is emerging is able to, by its constitution, by the way it is being constituted, to change this narrative, you know, because we have to look at it from the flip side. You know, yes, the high rate of turnover is not so good with respect to institutional memory and the building of the establishment. But again, it introduces a whole element of, you know, possible vibrancy, new faces, you know, given the context of the 2023 elections that we have seen, to be able to change this narrative. Well, unfortunately, however, the way it's also important to point out that the emerging, as it were, 10th National Assembly appears to be falling very short of inclusion. And this point must not be lost of effort on everyone, you know, who is a close observer of the National Assembly, and, you know, and who is following the development of democracy in this country. Inclusion, especially in the sense of gender. We see an emerging National Assembly that has, you know, nosedived, you know, seriously with respect to female representation in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. I mean, I can give you the numbers from 1999 to date to what is emerging in the 10th National Assembly. Is highly disappointing. Again, it shows to you the patriarchal nature of our politics, and these are issues that I don't want us to raise here, but I'm just, you know, highlighting it to show that out of 8 senators, who make up the 9th National Assembly, for instance, none of them is returning, but we have only 3 senators so far by the results announced that will be senators elect, that will be members of the 10th National Assembly. You see the drop, you see the gap. For the House of Representatives, it is even more dismal, from 13 members who are females in the current 9th House of Representatives. We are probably going to see less or about 7 of them. And cast your mind back to the beginning of the Fourth Republic, where we've had numbers as high as 27, as 22. I mean, in the 6th National Assembly, we had 27 female members in the House of Representatives. It's the same in the 7th and 8th, House of Representatives. We had 22 females. This figure nosedived to 13 in the 9th National Assembly. And now we're going to be seeing far less, about 7 or thereabouts, in the emerging 10th National Assembly. So it speaks, pretty discomfortably about inclusion with respect to the emerging picture of the 10th National Assembly.
Well, thank you indeed. That's an explanation from a journalistic point of view. It's a clear indication that you have indeed monitored this, tier of government since the Fourth Republic in 1999. Thank you indeed. We're going to be continuing with you as we make progress in the program. Let's return to distinguished Senator Omar here. Of course, he raised some pertinent points, with respect to the 9th Assembly and what has characterized this arm of government, since 1999. He raised the National Assembly exists only for itself, because Nigerians have experienced a situation where if there's budgeting, the National Assembly will always have additional budget, while reductions are made in other sectors of our national life. And just like he said, public perception of National Assembly. That's number one. We also talked about female representation, which has dropped drastically this time around, as against what we had in the 9th Assembly, which is now coming to the end of its tenure. Now, looking into the future, the 10th Assembly, which you pointed out is going to have many members who are new, in politics, especially in effective representation on the national level. All right. So, when you have been in the, or you are still the Senate Committee Chair on Rules and Business, that means you are in the core of administration of the National Assembly in terms of understanding and what role your committee, has played in sustaining, the structure of what administration of the National Assembly. So what are you going to see? What kind of tutelage would the new persons be made to face to ensure that they key into the fabric of House rules and regulations?
Yeah, thank you very much. First, let me say that it's sad that we've lost so many females coming back to the Senate, but we are proud in the 9th Senate that out of our females, one of them is going to the Villa to be the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Another one is going to Government House to be the first female governor of Adamawa State by the grace of God. So that's good news for us in the 9th Senate. Yeah, it's bad enough that only 3 females are coming back to the Senate. This did not affect only the female, like we said, it affected everybody. Now, the question I will always ask is, at 20-something%, that's a woeful failure. That's beyond F9, really. But the question is, who failed? Those of us in the National Assembly, Nigerian citizens that refuse to vote and return them back, or democracy? In my humble opinion, I think it's everything. We all
the political parties that failed to feed them.
Yes, everybody failed. But in my opinion, too, it is the journey to developing democracy. Democracy is a long process. As regards what my colleague said about National Assembly serving itself, not serving the people, I'm happy he said the perception. And you know what perception means. It is a very wrong perception. I am in the Senate, and I know what goes on at the center of the core. How do people mean when they say, for example, when budget comes, we cut, we increase? Increase to what? Do we increase budget to ourselves? No, we increase budget for our people. And the question will be, what's our role? What's the meaning of appropriation? What's the meaning of appropriate? What we do in Nigeria is far, far less from what happens in other democracies. We have the powers to adjust the budget as we deem fit to serve the nation. This pardon you hear, all adjustment you hear, is in the interest of trying to balance our projects in the country. In fact, without the National Assembly, you'll be shocked to know that there will be communities and local governments that will not benefit one kobo in the whole national budget. It is only through constituency projects and the adjustments we do to try to balance out that allows, disadvantaged local government and communities to have basic things like borehole, to have drinkable water, to have basic primary care centers, to have little things that, they've been forgotten about in this country. So when people say National Assembly serve itself, it's because they don't know. But I do know something. The real people, citizens in the rural communities, they understand this and they appreciate this.
Let me ask you this before you continue. It's also said that we duplicate positions of authority, in terms of what you are supposed to do for your people. Because at the state level, we have houses of assembly in the states. The communities you are talking about are under local governments, which are also under state governments. And these are state governments that also make budget for provision of social amenities in the same communities that you at the federal level are representing. So what happens? What is the role of a House of Assembly rep who perhaps in your area where you represent, you have a House of Assembly member also representing your communities there. So it's not kind of a duplication. And if at the national level, you are talking about how to bring borehole from national level to a community in the village, when he has a rep and a governor and chairman of local government. So how do you explain that?
Exactly. So, you see, that's the misconception again. Through the Houses of Assembly, of course, for them, they basically don't have anything like constituency project that the National Assembly has been able to institutionalize at federal government level. Yes, the state government and the local government have responsibility of those basic things. But we all know what's the situation. The local government system has collapsed. You can try to blame who you want to blame, but I tell you something, that the ordinary man in that community does not give a damn about whether federal, state government, local government, he just want to drink water. And where the local government is not able to provide it, oh yes, responsible state governors have been provided, but it's never enough. There's nothing wrong in those of our federal level to take the opportunity to help our people. That's what we do. And that's, those who are there understand and appreciate. I mean, those who don't understand, we question this, which is all right. But until we are able to fix the system fully, before, we can say, well, let's make sure we limit this to this, and don't forget, of course, there are concurrent lists to, that we all have capacity to intervene in. Now, generally speaking, it's sad that as somebody who has been in the center of the activity in the Senate and indeed in the National Assembly, people think that the Ninth Senate is a rubber stamp. I've said this repeatedly. What is the meaning of a rubber stamp? What do you expect in legislature? Why do you think my people send me to the National Assembly? To come and be backing on the president? To come and be blocking all president's requests? No. They sent me here to come and make laws for good governance. And to them, good governance means nothing other than things working for them. They want to see a good healthcare system. They want to see a good educational system. They want to have water to drink. That's all they care about. So for us in the Ninth Senate, from the experiences of especially the 8th Senate, where there's rancor between the legislature and the executive, the people suffered. And for us, we are interested in correcting that. And all we did was to say, we are going to work harmoniously with the executive. And to do that, we'll cooperate with them. Any good thing they bring in the interest of the people, we'll pass it as fast as we can in the interest of our people. However, it does not mean that when they bring things that are not okay with us, we must always pass. No, we don't. There are some instances that we object outright on the floor. There are other instances that our leadership tries to engage the executive to say, this will not pass, and we do not want any rancor. We do not want any embarrassment. Can you please adjust? Those things are done behind the scenes in the interest of the country. So we are not rubber stamp, we are just productive, efficient, night assembly, and it worked. Go and ask the citizens. They will tell you the projects done by this 10th and 9th Assembly has never been seen before in the history of Nigeria.
You know, we're also citizens, you know.
So maybe you need to go back to your community. Abuja here.
Senator Sadiq Umar, thank you very much for your explanations. Just before I bring in Professor Kabir Mato, that's one point that Kirian raised and to which you responded. You were talking about constituency projects. We'll push that on the one side because there are issues also with the level of execution and the quality of execution of the constituency projects. ICPC has been running rings around those who abandoned some of those constituency projects. But in terms of saying that without the intervention of the National Assembly in the course of appropriation, certain communities might never have seen any presence of the federal government. Some persons have complained, take roads for instance, that it is one of the reasons why arterial roads in this country continue to suffer from poor budgetary allocation. So you say arterial roads. Anybody would say, for instance, Benin, Auchi, Okene, Lokoja, Abuja, Kaduna, Kano, Zaria, Kano. Those are major arterial roads. You go to the southeast, you know your major arterial roads. When you fix those arterial roads, they are able to, of course, then be a catalyst for economic activities. But somebody will say, no, there's some road in some local community that is, we don't have a federal presence there. It's a federal road because it links up two states. Take from this major arterial road, put it there, and in the end, you know, the major arterial roads that ordinarily should truncate roads that should get priority attention don't get the priority attention that they deserve. And after a while, of course, the level of deterioration increases, and everybody gets to be complaining. I don't want you to respond just yet to that, distinguished senator. So you can escrow the question, and then when we come back, you may wish to respond to that. But I want to bring in Professor Kabir Mato. Professor Mato, again, we're dealing with perception. In the public imagination, on account of what we have seen in the past, the Senate in particular had been perceived to be a retirement home from former state governors. But this time around, there were shocking outcomes in the National Assembly elections. A number of sitting state governors, of course, who will be concluding their tenure on the 29th of May, had attempted to go to the Senate and they were beaten. I mean, there were examples in Cross River, example in Enugu, example in Benue, example in Kebbi. But of course, there's still some former governors who have made their way back into the Senate. What does this tell you in terms of saying, look, public perception of the Senate being a retirement location for former governors, and then the voters, as it were, not obliging some governors who wanted to probably go there in fulfillment of the public perception?
True, Kingsley, that's what the perception is at the moment. You know, but the greatest lacuna there is the fact that the Constitution does not make any categorical statement about that. And what's happening is that by the time you're a state governor, you're expected to have, you know, enjoyed tremendous political support on the part of the populace, and so when you went to retire, you go to Senate. I'm not too worried about that. What I'm worried about is that by the time you serve 8 years as the governor of your state, that's 2 terms, and then you retire to Senate, again you begin to, you know, draw from the federal treasury in terms of salaries, allowances, and so on and so forth, while back at home you are also enjoying the perquisites of what you call you know, retirement package for a state governor. I find it very difficult really to understand that. But you see, as Nigerians, the Constitution does not prohibit them from doing that. I think that's an attitude that should border us more within the purview of, you know, conventions and attitude rather than the law. But the Nigerians apparently seems to be very aware of that and the growing tendencies in also that direction, and perhaps that's the reason why they were able to serve these sentences on some of these you know, state governors. But remember, this is not the first time. When Senator Suswam finished his term as, tenure as a 2-term governor of Benue State, he came to Senate. He wanted to come to Senate, but he was denied by his constituents, and he had to wait 4 more years before coming back to Senate, and eventually again he has been stopped from coming back now. So that's really not the problem. The Senate, in my view, like I did say, is a shock absorber under a federal arrangement like the one we have. You always have to have a set of people within the legislative framework that are of certain age, category and experience in life, away from the vibrancy and exuberance of, the House of the People, which is the House of Representatives. The Senate, it's more like a moderator, and therefore should have people who ordinarily are mature in the various field of endeavors and will be able to perhaps match breaks and counter some of the exuberant laws and policies that might eventually emerge from the House of the People. But in all, I think Nigerians have the right, if they so desire, you perform as a state governor after 8 years and you want to go to Senate, and they elect you. There's obviously nothing wrong with that. What I think we should begin to ask is the integrity of continuing to draw fat salaries and allowances after having served as a governor for 8 years and then going to the National Assembly for 4, 8. Some of them have been there for more than that, and then drawing full salaries and allowances. I think this is one of the areas that we have to critically look at and begin to come up with ways and means that if it is the attraction of, the material benefits that these people are getting when they move to the upper chamber of the National Assembly, then it should be de-emphasized so that service, more than any other things, should be the priority of those who are governors and will want to go to Senate. I think it's an inalienable right to do that. The Constitution does not, prohibit it, but the Nigerian voter, has the right to either agree or disagree. We have seen in this case, a few governors were able to make it, while the majority of them, were unable to pass the test. So I think it should go like that, and then we need to be patient. The evolution of the democratic process. We want to get to the state of perfection outside, and this is not possible. The way this election was conducted, we are not the same way previous elections were conducted. We expect that the subsequent elections
some persons, who think that there should be a restructuring of National Assembly. He did say, and he's still a serving senator, that Nigeria may not really need a bicameral legislature, considering the fact that it costs humongous amount of money to sustain bicameral National Assembly when the nation is lagging behind in terms of infrastructure, in terms of having a good educational development that we require, as well as other sectors of our national life that are lagging behind in terms of other nations that should be at par with Nigeria. Now, what do you consider as a person as to what Nigeria could do to reduce the cost of running the National Assembly? It has the major convergence of politicians in Nigeria. Rota Sokorocha is still serving senator. Did say, look, from what I've seen here, after serving as a governor and now the National Assembly, that this nation does not require a bicameral legislature. What would be your view, considering that you have also seen and observed what happens at this tier of government for some years now?
Thank you, Kirian. This question continues to arise because, like I said, the National Assembly and its members have continued to fail to address the issues of negative public perceptions about them. Yeah, distinguished Senator Sadiq Umar says that it is perception, but perception is reality. And until this is addressed, these kind of advocacies and agitations would continue. However, my position is that we do need a bicameral National Assembly legislature in this country. Like Professor Kabir Matus said, the Senate offers, equal representation across the states. And the House of Representatives, addresses the issue of diversity. Nigeria is a huge and diverse country, and so there must be representation from as far as, every nook and cranny of the country, which the House of Representatives offers. So there is a balance between the proportional representation which the Senate offers, and then that's issue around diversity, which the House of Representatives offers. So contextually speaking, I believe and I submit that we do need a bicameral legislature. If the National Assembly delivers services the way it should deliver to the satisfaction of the citizens, I think that it will possibly eliminate this, advocacy. Just like it will also eliminate or properly address the issue of the cost of funding the National Assembly. This debate has been on and dragging for long. The National Assembly is overfunded. It is taking too much in the budget. Nigerian National Assembly members are the highest paid in the world, and on and on and on. Some of these are not correct. And we have done some research, some analysis that were put out in the public space, that Nigerian legislators are not the highest paid in the world. In making our advocacy, we must also be factual. We must also be guided by what the facts are. The National Assembly's budget, annual budget, hovers between 130, 125, 150 billion annually. That's not a lot of money compared to the size of the national budget. It's not even up to, it's compared to some of the budgets of some MDAs. It's not a lot of money. I know that, for instance, the Central Bank of Nigeria, runs some interventionist programs that, receive far more money than what the National Assembly, is appropriated for in a year. So it's not about the figure. It's also about what the National Assembly does and how it performs and delivers its services. Again, it comes back to the issue of service delivery. So when Sadiq Umar, Senator Distinguished, says that the National Assembly is falsely accused as a rubber stamp, I beg to differ. It is what that the citizens see, it is what they perceive, and we must be objective in making these submissions. If the National Assembly seeks to have a harmonious working relationship, advance, governance and democracy, that is fantastic, that is perfect. But what is the reality of Nigerians? The reality is that we have about 20 million out-of-school children in this country. The reality is that we have close to 100 million Nigerians living in poverty, abject poverty. The reality is that we are indebted to the tunes of over 30 trillion naira, debts and all of that. The reality is that the other day, the CBN printed currencies without appropriation, without approval from the National Assembly. And we had a retrospective request from the president for the approvals to be given. These are not, incidences and instances that speak well of a National Assembly that is up and doing with respect to its responsibilities, particularly on oversight. So the National Assembly is falling short of its roles and responsibilities, and it must accept and admit that as a starting point, which is why I said, going forward in the 10th National Assembly, they have sitting on their shoulders an opportunity to rewrite the narrative, to rewrite history, so that they can begin to see a constructive shift in the way citizens perceive the National Assembly. So it's not the debate about whether we are rubber stamp, whether we are better than the 9th National Assembly, than the 8th National Assembly. That conversation I think is beside the point. The point is that the reality of Nigerians is that they don't feel too good. And the reality is that they don't feel happy. The security situation is not at its best. It could be better. For 8 years, for 4 years, we have not seen lots of improvements in the lives and living conditions of Nigerians. And if you have a National Assembly, that is supposed to provide some checks and balances to the executive, checks and balances, legitimate. We are not saying confrontation, but checks and balances. We do not see that happen sufficiently. And that is why citizens continue to view the National Assembly as a rubber stamp. That is why citizens continue to see the National Assembly as being below par with respect to delivery of its services. So some of these perceptions will continue and agitations will continue to subsist. Oh, they have too much money, cut down the budget. Oh, we don't need a bicameral legislature, the Senate is enough. Or scrap the Senate, leave the House of Representatives. These are the things that lead to these agitations. But like I said, my submission is that we do need a bicameral legislature. It's good for our democracy and for the state of our current democratic development. I do believe, and I've submitted here and even everywhere else that I have had the opportunity to speak, that the National Assembly is not even adequately funded, if we really want to be honest. But to whom much is given, much is expected. It is the delivery of service that has fallen short, far below expectation. And there is no concrete evidence of robust oversight that is putting the National Assembly in this situation where it's had its back against the wall. Respect to some of these agitations, and advocacies by the citizens. The National Assembly, again, I repeat, the 10th National Assembly has history sitting on its shoulders. I hope that it is able to look beyond the prisms of political considerations and, cohesion of the establishment, the preservation of the establishment, the political establishment, and deliver services to the people. We want to see less and less of the narrative, of the party in power, we have majority and then we can do this. Nigerians are tired of this. You saw all of this play out in the elections. 10 outgoing governors wanted to come to the Senate, but Nigerians rose up. Only 2 of them made it. 17 ex-governors who are in the Senate, who have been in the Senate, who also wanted to come back. But 10 of them did not make it. So you see that the narrative is changing. And by the way, what is the contribution of these ex-governors to the National Assembly? They bring value and experience. That is what is normative. That is what should be. But is that the reality? The reality is that they just come to the Senate and make the Senate a retirement home. And Nigerians need to stand up and continue to resist this, as we have seen in the last elections, because they are not bringing any value. It is their right. The Constitution does not stop them from coming as many times as they want, but they are not bringing the value that they should bring. Otherwise, we'll by now we have been able to address the issue of local government autonomy, because they have been governors, and so they know what the problems are. But how come that over the years they come to the National Assembly and they sustain the same problems that they met and they had in place while they were state chief executives? So it's all about the preservation of the political status quo rather than delivery of services to citizens.
Thank you very much. I know you were flying high, so I didn't want to disrupt your altitude. Thanks for your comments. Let's come back very quickly to the studio. Distinguished Senator Sadiq Umar. The National Assembly, in particular the Senate, after the banana peels era from 1999 to around about 2003 and thereabouts, the National Assembly, again in particular the Senate, since the 6th Senate, appears to have had some stable leadership. David Mark was Senate President for a pretty long while, and the incumbent Senate President, of course, is going to be in office hopefully for 4 years. But there were issues with the leadership of the 8th Assembly. That's the way the leadership emerged. What, in your opinion, are those critical factors that usually will determine the choice of presiding officers to provide guidance, to provide leadership, to provide stability to the legislature, and in particular the upper chamber?
Yeah, thank you, sir. So before I answer that quickly, I want to brush over some of the issues we've addressed before, because Nigerians need to understand. For example, you spoke about those key roles that federal government should be facing, which, members of National Assembly will say, oh no, I also have a federal role here, put money there. Look, as members of the National Assembly, we have two key ways we operate. One, you see yourself as a citizen and as a leader who should do whatever you need to do to make sure Nigeria progresses. So those roles are our priority. We want major highways connected in this country. However, beyond that role, you are also voted and sent to the National Assembly by your constituents to go and protect their interests. So, Siri, please, by the time you leave NTA...
You keep calling me Siri. My name is Kingsley.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
My apology once again. Kingsley.
That's fine. I think it's the hangover of the
Yeah,
elections.
I think so. By the time you retire and your people graciously say, make the Senate your retirement home, and you come in. If you choose to say, no, it is the highway, national things you are interested in alone, and you forget their own interest, you hear for them in the next election. They will send a strong message to... So that's the reality. Your job as a National Assembly member is to work for Nigeria, the bigger picture, like you said, but you also have to be looking at the interests of your people and pushing it. However, we need to develop as a country, so we must not joke with those key projects. Therefore, it's equally the responsibility of the executive. Where there's an anomaly or a gap, they must put their eye on that, and they can bring supplementary. And we've done that even in this budget to say, these are national projects that are very important. Please fund it for us, and we'll always do that graciously. I still don't like the idea of people thinking that National Assembly is overfunded. Like my friend said, we are underfunded. He didn't tell you that we have less than 1% of the national budget, even as a third arm of government. 1%. All the noise you hear is 1%. If you know what is the real salary component of a senator, it can be different from what the revenue mobilization approved. Our salary structure is not different from every other administrative agency. The noise you hear is probably,
allowances.
What is allowances? There's not any allowances. It's probably like a minister or a DG, he has a recurring expenditure to run his office. Nobody talks about that in this country. And that amount is triple what is that of a senator.
What people want to know is, at the end of the month, what goes into your pocket. Some say it's 14 million a month. Well, I know that if you explain that, it could be reasonable. So
it's almost nothing.
But as a Nigerian, so what would say, how can somebody, one person, take this sum of money on a monthly basis? Because you have perhaps, your staff, who run your operations and what have you, who are not permanent employees of the National Assembly in the first instance, that as soon as you leave office, they lose their jobs.
Absolutely. So you have to take care of all of that from all of that. Anyway, the long and short of it is that it is said, when you look at it globally, what members of National Assembly, like the senators of the Federal of the United States of America, if you know what goes into their budget for a single senator to make him operate, it will shock you, but that's not what we are discussing. Let's leave it at that. One day, Nigerians will appreciate. What shocks me most is that National Assembly, we represent the people, we are the closest to the people, we are the one they disturb, we are the one that solves their problem, and we are the one that is most attacked again. But again, it's been shown, globally speaking, the parliament, the Congress is always the victim of the society. There's nothing you can do about that. We have accepted it, but we know why we have to do what we have to do in the interest of our people, because they are our bosses, they sent us there. Now, coming to answer about stability, look, the Ninth Assembly is as stable as I think the 7th and 6th. It has to do with the quality of leadership. It has to do with experience. It has to do with collaboration with even the executive to make sure we work in the interest of the country. And I think that is very important. In selecting leadership, you have to look at who will stabilize the National Assembly, so that instead of those banana peel, you remove it and put proper rock that everywhere will be stable. We've done that. Look, honestly, it's worrisome that everybody talk about now assembly rubber stamp. People forget the big things we did, which are our own priorities, and that's what we worry about. And we know that history will judge us right. We said we want to stabilize the budgetary cycle from January to December, as is done all over the world, so that every businessman can see what the country is doing. We have done that. I think we've done the last one. We scored 100%. We didn't even blink, not one. 2, the petroleum industry has been a problem. We were able to solve it. People will not see the benefit now because they will not understand, but time will tell. We have done finance bills. Look, during COVID crisis, there has been so much that this National Assembly rose up to that. If we did not, the story would have been different. Nobody talks about all of this, which is fine. As representatives of people, we understand. Democracy is a process. It's not an event. People will resist, they will react, they will be, but with time, they will get to understand it. And for governors, look, constitutionally is their right. The only person that can stop them is their constitution. And they will stop him a lot of them.
Yes.
So what's the big deal about it?
So
we just make noise. Yeah.
Oh my, thank you indeed. You know, when you talk about what you earn and all of that, you know, some of your members, so some level of flamboyance. You know, in some states, you see some National Assembly members with convoy, with you know, exquisite cars and SUVs.
That's I mean, I move alone.
You know, because people, when they see such things, they begin to wonder where the money is coming from. And not only that, you see them raising some, you know, skyscrapers, you know, here and there, building hotels and stuff like that. You know, the society is seeing these things. It's not as if it's happening in the moon, right? So these are things that this man must be making money. That is why everybody wants to be at the National Assembly. He's building this, he's building that. He has about many SUVs, some go on Range Rover, the big time cars we're talking about, sir. And they're brand new. It's not just Tokumbo as we may have it. That's why people are beginning to have that perception that OKIP has been talking about.
That's less than 10% of the National Assembly. Not everybody. And there are a lot of celebrities or known persons that are building skyrocketing, these are driving wonderful cars more than
these are
members
persons who are making money based on their talent and their gifts, especially like footballers and their, you know, and their entertainers. So let's keep it at that and take a short break. When we come back, the conversation will continue. All right, so we can actually continue. Okay, for him, all right, you will be leaving any moment from now, Kingsley.
That's right. We'll have to thank distinguished Senator Sadiq Umar. Of course, he has an urgent appointment to keep at this time. He represents Kwara North Senatorial District and is chairman of the Senate Committee on Rules and Business. Of course, he's just won his re-election, so we'll be seeing more of you in the 10th Senate. Once again, congratulations and thank you very much always for your candor. And I'm sure that in the ensuing weeks, the hangover of the 2023 February 25th elections will begin to wear off. Thank you very much for being our guest this morning.
Thank you, Kingsley.
All right. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we continue with our other guests. All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. We still have Oke Epia with us via Zoom and Professor Kabir Mato, who is with us from our Kaduna Network Center. Professor Kabir Mato, I know that you spent some time consulting at the National Assembly in the early years of the Instant Republic. One of the issues that we've had to deal with, and I think it seemed very prominent during the 8th Assembly, as well as to an extent the 9th Assembly. Some persons are worried, and those persons will include my good self, about the quality of research ahead of legislative business, ahead of debates, ahead of even the passage of bills. Is the National Assembly sufficiently investing in research? And if you say investing in quality research, so as to guide it in terms of its business. And one other point also was the poor quality of editing of the bills that were passed and being transmitted to Mr. President for his accent. There were a number of those bills that the President returned because of the obvious clerical errors that gave different meanings, of course, to the intendments of the clauses. What would you like to see more in the 10th Assembly against the backdrop of your earlier experience in consulting for the National Assembly? Prof.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. You see, this has been, a persistent problem in the National Assembly. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has made it abundantly clear that for you to qualify to, aspire to be a member of the House of Representatives or Senate, you are expected to have a first leaving school certificate. In that case, it's very basic. But what's critical is that the National Assembly, as it is constituted, has provided for each of its members the latitude to appoint, a large volume, depending on whether Senate or House of Representatives, of people who will serve as your legislative assistants. And the function of these people, obviously, is to be able to guide you, help you conduct research, studies, and explore into areas, not necessarily pertaining to your immediate constituency, but the legislature at large. This hasn't been forthcoming. I recall that between 1999 up till about 2003 or 2007, the members of the Senate and the House were simply, allowed to employ anything that they so want, as they so wanted, as their legislative aids. The realization, but the National Assembly Service Commission, that a lot of the senators and members were, in fact, not employing people of competence that will help them discharge their legislative responsibilities well, was what led to the fact that, the elected senator or member will have to now get the curriculum vitae of those that he or she will want to appoint, and then at his instance, they are appointed by the commission, and it is the commission that places each of these appointees, on the basis of scale and, whatever payments that they are going to get. But even at that, it does not seem to serve the legislature so very well in terms of conducting rigorous research and studies on what needs to be done and the level of contribution that a particular lawmaker should make. And let me make it abundantly clear that what we see in Nigeria happening every day, and we try to judge our legislators on the basis of their performance during plenary session, isn't actually what the nitty-gritty of the legislative framework is all about. The bulk of the legislative work is done at the level of committees and outside of the plenary. The plenary is merely a that members come to discuss issues for a few hours and they leave. But the bulk of the work is done at the committee levels and outside of the committee levels. I think the National Assembly Research Office is one area that I am aware the National Assembly has been trying to institutionalize for a very long time. And the institutionalization of that will go a long way, just like the budget office, that will have information on what is happening within the nook and crannies of the country as far as the economy, polity, and the society is concerned, that will help the legislature have a proper grasp and understanding of what the real economic situation is in the country. Does not seem to function as effectively as it should. But I think, again, just like the National Assembly itself, this institution is evolving. And I hope that with serious attention, with serious investment on the part of the leadership of both the Senate and the House of Representatives, we should have robust National Assembly Research Office and, members also hiring capable and competent staff that will help them, go through documents, do a lot of research, break down difficult things into simple issues for members that are not high up there intellectually to understand, and then make their own contributions for the betterment of the legislature. I think the National Assembly is a work in progress. This is the 7th round, and I believe that by the time we get it to the 8th, 9th, and 10th, we should be able to see enhancement and improvement in the quality of not just the members. You cannot, we were talking about the issue of, turnover of members of the National Assembly, which is the prerogative of, the voters to decide who goes there and who does not go. So equally it is with that. And that is why the management and the leadership of the National Assembly must ensure the National Assembly Research Office is constituted in such a way that it provides the basic, data and nitty-gritty of information that every legislator or even outsider is requiring in order to help improve his or her capacity to participate or to serve as a legislator. But beyond that, like I said, the members of the National Assembly must make it a matter of priority by hiring very competent technical staff that will help them break down the nitty-gritties of whatever is going on for their understanding, and they advise them in such a manner that they also make fruitful and useful contributions, that will help in not just the development of their constituencies, which is their primary responsibility, but also contributing at the level of, national debate that will help foster, greater development in the Nigerian project.
All right, Professor Malto. In fact, when we were elucidating your points, I was thinking of some of the things that you mentioned. For instance, senators or National Assembly members hiring competent staff. You don't get that in most cases because they hire, perhaps political supporters and relations who may not have a good understanding of what the legislating is all about. And again, sometimes I remember the course we undertook in political science, that African politics, which is a course on its own, and I'm beginning to see some elements of what you taught us yourself, Professor Malto, with respect to African politics and what is playing out, not just in Nigeria, but Africa as a whole. Because trying to get it right is one of the first things that we miss to do most of the time. For instance, talk about the National Assembly without a very funded research outfit that will enable them research into other decisions of national assemblies elsewhere in the world to see what they can do to change the course of our history with respect to their responsibility. Now let's return to Epia. You talked well about history sitting upon the shoulders of the 10th Assembly. Invariably, you mean that Nigerians will need to see something new. You say, look, you want them to change the narrative of what has always been since 1999. But I want you to mention those critical areas that you think they are lacking and what you would suggest to be to play out, in the 10th Assembly. You talked about lack of real checks and balances. You talked about rubber stamping and others. Let's hear more from you.
I think that it's important to just make a few remarks to the contributions just made by Professor Mato. The National Assembly, over time has witnessed a degeneration, not only in terms of character, but also in terms of competence of members. And this is a matter of fact. We have seen situations where members are not able to express themselves and articulate properly in plenary. We have seen situations where members sometimes don't even get to speak because they are not able to speak, correctly. We have seen situations where members sponsor bills that they have no clue about. We have seen situations where members just have their names added to bills so they could be called co-sponsors of bills. And don't forget, if I may remind you, it is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, who introduced, to the best of my knowledge, the phrase legislative plagiarism when it comes to the sponsorship of bills. And that is because we have people who go dig up old bills that have not been enacted, and they come to a new assembly, and they just dust it and just exchange the names, just put their names there. And these are bills that have been sponsored by hard work and diligence of members who have been in the assembly before. And there are a couple of that. Other people are currently doing a research on that, and we'll be able to bring up our findings when we are done. So you see, not just a lack of, competence, there is some indolence, because it is the order of the office that also determines the way his office wants to run. You could have the best of legislative aides and assistants, but if you as the legislator, have no clue, you are not interested in service delivery, it doesn't matter what quality of aides that you hire in your office. Of course, that is not, saying that what we currently see is just, people just bringing their cronies, party supporters, and populate their offices. That's what obtains, with due respect to members of the National Assembly. So that needs to be the basis for the change. We need to see quality and competence, in the legislators themselves. And that is why we have a lot of expectations in the incoming 10th National Assembly. These individuals coming in, especially the new ones, what value are they able to bring in? What value are they able to bring in respect to lawmaking, respect to the delivery of oversight function? And that is where it matters the most. You know, it has been said that Nigeria has laws, lots of laws. You know, some even say that the issue is not with lack of laws, but how do we implement the laws? And implementing the laws has to do with the delivery of the oversight functions of lawmakers. This has been very, very abysmal, if you ask me, and we need to see a lot of that happen. You know, delivery of oversight function is not tantamount to confrontation with the executive. That point needs to be made very clear. What is important is that citizens want to see a legislature that advances, that protects and promotes the interests of their constituents, of citizens, and of indeed the country, and not to preserve the political establishments, and not to promote elite interests. And that is what we have seen. If the incoming 10th National Assembly is not going to rewrite this narrative, then it will be quite, unfortunate. And this is my call. You know, as we get through the process of electing the principal officers, the presiding officers of the 10th National Assembly, and then the principal officers, this needs to be borne in mind. You know, what quality of persons, what is the agenda that they promote? What do they represent? I mean, this is not within the control of the larger electorate, but this is a call to members-elect of the National Assembly. They should look forward to leaders, presiding officers who will stand in the interest of not just the members, but in the interest of country and citizens. It will enable them to be able to deliver services that will make citizens become proud of them, and to make citizens begin to shift the kind of perception that they have of them. Otherwise, it will be, again, a rigmarole, a repetition of the vicious circle that we have seen, all these years since the Fourth Republic, and even beyond. We have not seen situations in the recent times, in the last 2-3, assemblies where you can even have quotable quotes, the debates are drab. There's nothing to look forward to. Members come to plenary maybe only on Tuesdays and Thursdays, many of them because they'll be seen on national TV to be present in plenary. The oversight committees that they attend, what do? What has happened to a lot of the probes undertaken by the National Assembly? What has happened to all the hula baloo and the scandals that we saw with the NDDC probe 2 years back? What has happened to that? Some of those members are returning to the National Assembly. Some of them are even angling to be presiding and principal officers. It's a shame. But they have an opportunity to rewrite the narrative. And this would be our expectation as the National Assembly, 10th National Assembly, going to get constituted.
Okay, Pierre, I was going to tell you to off your mic, when you were getting into the, off your mic, it's okay. So we'd like to thank you always for your candor and insights in the discussions around the National Assembly. Executive Director, Other People in Nigeria. Okay, Pierre, thank you for being our guest on Good Morning Nigeria today. And from our Kaduna Network Center, we're joined by Professor Kabir Mato, political scientist and former consultant at the National Assembly. Prof, always a delight also having you on Good Morning Nigeria. All right, next for us now is sports. All right, that's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria today. As always, we appreciate your tuning in, and tomorrow another package comes up, same time, 7 in the morning. Look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kieran. You have a wonderful day. I'll see you again some other time.